Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There, a fortnightly video stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's What If animated series, which is available to watch on Disney+. In today's episode, we're going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around episodes 6 and 7. So that's What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark, and What If Thor were an only child. But by the very nature of this show and the fact that we refer to this, we will also, of course, be including spoilers from other areas of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. So with that out of the way, I'm Keith Isles. I am an independent filmmaker, content creator, and a lifelong enthusiast of film and television. And if you're new to this, if this is the first time you found the channel, then welcome. Please do look around, check out some of the other content that we have here. And if this is your sort of thing, please do like and consider subscribing to the channel, because that all helps. Also, if you are listening to us as a podcast, consider giving us a review if you're enjoying this as well, because all of this sort of thing helps us and keeps the world nice. Anyway, for today's episode, I am joined by a couple of fellow Avengers and enthusiasts of this material. First up, my co-host on the Let's See What's Out There podcast. Welcome, Pete Mealy.
Hey, how are we doing?
I'm well, Pete. How are you?
All right, thanks. Glad to be here.
Joining us from the other side of the pond. You see, this is an international show, but then this is what streaming can do. So we'll see where we go this week. Also, welcoming back one of our guests who couldn't make last week, the last episode, which was, of course, 2 weeks ago, but is keen to be back. And joining us today is filmmaker and comic book expert Clive Ashenden. Welcome, Clive.
Hello, Keith. Hello, Pete.
How are you today?
I'm good. Excited to be back talking Marvel.
Indeed. Just notes for you guys out there watching. We're not actually doing this one as a live stream. This will be a video on the channel soon. Simply because of schedules and whatever this week. We're sort of trying to fit this into lunch hours, and it probably will be a slightly shorter show than usual. And also apologies for those watching on YouTube. Usually I have some visuals, some slides to go with this, but confessions up front, I haven't had any chance to produce any slides for this week's episode. So it's just going to be an audio experience wherever you're watching this. So there you go. We've credited in other weeks the main sort of showrunners that are involved with the writing and directing of this, which tends to be A.C. Bradley, Matthew Chauncey, and directed by Brian Andrews, and that remains the same for these episodes as well. So let's start with What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark, which was episode 6. I have to say I kind of enjoyed this one. I found this one a lot of fun. What were the general thoughts? What did you guys think?
Oh, are we not doing Pete's synopsis?
There you go. You see the whole synopsis thing.
I thought I got out of it.
Completely rogue off page already. So there you go. Yes, we usually do start these with a brief synopsis of the episodes. It's because I don't have my slides. You see, it's thrown by our good friend Pete. So Pete, have at it.
Okay. So what if when Tony Stark was in Afghanistan, Killmonger showed up before Tony gets injured, and then Tony is all like, whoa, you're awesome, and they join up and make an army of iron bots not men. And then Killmonger kills Tony and sets up the Black Panther, and then pits the U.S. against Wakanda, and then goes over to Wakanda and reveals himself to be the prince, and he becomes the new Black Panther, and then he's playing both sides against each other, which is exactly what he wants, right? And then that means that it's up to Pepper Potts and Shuri to figure out how to stop him. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that one before I go into the next one?
Because I feel like audience will wait in anticipation for the next synopsis. Because I don't know how I forgot, Pete. Because you really do these incredibly well. So
let's not build it up. The second synopsis is not that good. Okay.
Okay. So back to what I was saying. Who wants to start? Who wants to kick off? As I'm doing a very bad job of hosting this at the moment.
I'll kick off if you like. I mean, I thought this was a fun episode. You know, I mean, you can't really go wrong by bringing back one of the best ever sort of villain / sort of semi-sympathetic antagonists that they had in any phase of the MCU. So, and then to have Michael B. Jordan reprising that role, and I mean, the only obviously the thing with Black Panther is it was largely set in Wakanda, so you didn't really get that interaction with other parts of the MCU. So in this one we do, which was really nice. And then you know, there are interesting things also with with what they do with Tony Stark, and just I thought they did a good job of sort of playing around with like, he's like essentially getting this kind of big break and this kind of connection with Tony Stark. Does that, sort of, is that influencing Killmonger to set aside his quest for vengeance? They did a good job of playing around with that, even though it was, with what we know about his character, it was clear he wasn't, telling the whole truth throughout, but I thought that it was nicely played, and just good to see him back.
Absolutely. Pete, any further thoughts on that from you? Did you enjoy this one?
I really like this one. I thought, this is like exactly what the goal of the series is, to play around and have fun. And it's done best when you bring in good characters and give them interesting situations. And the Killmonger character was one of the best, like you said, Clive, right? One of the best antagonists in the film, right? Who just had an interesting and compelling backstory. And you could see that there was, I think, a lot more to the motivation there than just smash or kill, right? Like, he was driving towards a goal, and it's fun to see villains who put plans in place that are slightly more complex than I'm going to kill everything, right? And so that's what I really liked about Killmonger and Black Panther, and here I feel like they ratcheted it up a notch. It was almost like, oh man, this would be a way better idea for Killmonger than the one in Black Panther, right, to achieve his goals. And right, but then it's like not a Black Panther movie. I get it, and so this is the perfect way to do that. And I think like that, just the storyline was compelling, and it was fun to watch, and it was really well played with the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we're definitely all on the same page with this one, because I also agree with what you're both saying. I thought it was a really interesting spin on this. I did, of course, like the fact that it started off with almost like an animated shot for shot from the original Iron Man film, which is always fun. Of course, although we got Michael B. Jordan, we get some of the cast returning. It is important to point out, though, that playing the role of Tony Stark in this was voice actor Mick Wingert. Mick's other credits, they're mainly animation, doing voiceovers for animation. What's interesting is he has quite a long history with voicing Tony Stark and Iron Man in a lot of the animated films and series that came before the MCU, if you like. So he's worked on a few of those things, and I have to say, in terms of doing a voice double, if you like, I thought he did a really good job of sounding like, it wasn't jarring. It wasn't like, obviously, Robert Downey Jr.'s. Those are quite some shoes to fill. He's a very charismatic individual and has very much made Iron Man and his own. But I thought that Mick did a good job here with voicing it, and I didn't find that jarring. Did you guys?
No, I thought a lot of the sort of voice matching, if you want to call it, was great. Honestly, I just noticed that Pepper Potts was not Gwyneth Paltrow, and I wouldn't have noticed that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, actress Beth Hoyt provided the voice for Pepper Potts. But I think most of the other cast were the originals. Interestingly, we're back to this thing again. We've got Don Cheadle voicing Rhodey here, although. Technically in the MCU, this was the part where Terrence Howard actually had that role. So, but they used the voice and indeed the likeness of Don Cheadle for this. I remember we had a bit of a conversation
Mark
around.
Ruffalo is the Incredible Hulk, right?
Yeah.
In the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they got pretty much everybody else back for the most part, and I as I said, like you said, you didn't feel like you weren't watching an alternate version of those characters from the MCU. So I thought that worked rather well, and it was also good that like we had Andy Serkis reprising his role. Quite a lot of actors. Obviously Chadwick Boseman. And we had Angela Bassett back there as well. Paul Bettany, Leslie Bibb, John Kenny, to name just a few. So fabulous stuff. And I noticed one of the things that we brought up in previous episodes as well was when the show started, we would hear Jeffrey Wright's voice of the Watcher, and then in like episodes, I think it was 3 and 4, we started to see glimpses of the Watcher in the backdrop, and I noticed they're sort of bringing the character more and more into the sort of forefront of the stories as we go along, which I assume was an intentional thing to sort of gradually bring that character as into this more as we go through it. But I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
sorry.
I was just going to say, I think when we get to episode 7, we can really dig into that, because that seems to be the one that most sets up stuff that might be going forward. But sorry, what were you going to say, Pete?
I was going to say that we needed you to talk about like more of the comic book stuff, because I don't know the comic book stuff with this as well, but I do. And yeah, there's stuff in episode 7 that I'm hoping you can explain to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
And so it would be perfectly in line with sort of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and overarching sort of story drive if we get more and more into the Watcher. And right, I think you said that in some of the comic books the Watcher does actually go from being passive to active in the timelines, and that
I believe so. I mean, I wasn't like a reader of What If, but but from other things that I've read, which he's in, he doesn't always watch. Let's just put it like that. So and I think it's very clear. They're very clearly setting up for more stuff. One point I wanted to make about this episode was that I was kind of mentally comparing it to episode 4, the Doctor Strange centered one, and in that one, I felt that they sort of made a mistake, or they made a choice which I didn't agree with. Let's put it that way, which was that they sort of conveniently forgot / kind of did away with some side characters in order to focus their narrative the way they wanted it to be, and which kind of slightly took me out of it, because I was like, with that one, it's like they completely forgot about the Chiwetel Elijah Ford character, the Mordo character, who was kind of set up to be this like antagonist, to be like against like magic users, and also they sort of sidelined the Wong character as well, and so that at the end it was just all about good Doctor Strange versus emo Doctor Strange, right? To try and save it, and it was all this only Doctor Strange. Well, for me, it would have made more sense for them to team up with like Mordo and with Wong, and then to pool their powers. But unless we're saying that emo Doctor Strange has already taken them out, but we never really got that part of the. I mean, he really was emo Doctor Strange, wasn't he? Whereas in this one, whereas in the Killmonger story, you had that thing seeded throughout of Pepper being like, I don't know about this guy, and Shuri also being, this is all a bit too convenient, So basically, seeing that these smart characters aren't totally buying into the Killmonger, thing that he's selling, even though he clearly wins over Tony straight away, and once he's proved himself in battle, sort of wins over the Wakandans to the point where they give him the special berry juice to make him Black Panther. So
I see what you mean. I mean, I think this is one of the problems with the sort of half an hour runtime on these things. Is you're absolutely right. Sometimes there are side characters that get a bit overlooked, and I think in this one they got that balance a lot better, because they did have a lot to cram in. One I didn't mention, by the way, as well, was Obadiah Stane, who was obviously voiced by Jeff Bridges, who's amazing in the original Iron Man. They got a voice actor Kif Vanden Heuvel to do the voice, but again, I would say that was not too jarring. I kind of bought it was the same character, so props to him as well.
It did kind of make Tony Stark look a bit stupid, like in the first Iron Man film, that he didn't pick up on all these apparently easily findable clues through the internet, or however Killmonger is supposed to have come across that. That bit where it's just, and here's my PowerPoint presentation of why Obadiah Stane is a baddie, and it's like, oh wow, that sort of, that was maybe the only like slightly goofy note of storytelling, if you see what I mean.
Now you're right. I mean, there were a few goofy bits. I did in terms of sort of in jokes and references, I do like it when they sort of poke fun at themselves a little bit, and when they're doing the, if you like, the brainstorming, the spitballing for the he was saying about, we could use an arc reactor, and then no, actually that's a bad idea. And I did kind of chuckle at that. That's in there for the fans. But but no, this was an enjoyable episode. I have to say, they've been a bit sort of hit and miss with me so far, these what ifs. I actually thought this was one of the stronger ones, but I don't know whether that's just because I'm quite a fan. I mean, the two films that it covered the most was obviously Iron Man and Black Panther, right? So although it had some elements from Iron Man 2 in there as well, didn't it, in places, I guess. But yeah, it was quite nicely nicely measured and nicely balanced in this episode. Cool.
Yeah,
Any sorry.
You know, I think this episode was really successful, right? Because it did what this show sets out to do, and in a compelling and interesting way. You know, I think some of the questions, the what if questions that have kicked off episodes have been, you know, maybe not as in depth or not as compelling questions as some of the other ones, right? So I think, yeah, the Doctor Strange episode was a really high point, and this is another one because, and for me, like the Captain America episode, the first one was a really great one too. I think it's because they picked interesting and dynamic questions, right? And so then other questions that they ask, I think, might not be the best questions to ask. Like, what if there were zombies? Or you know, we'll get to it. But yeah,
actually, I have to ask Clive, because you weren't on that episode. I'm just really briefly, while we have time here, interested. What did you have any sort of strong thoughts on the zombies episode? Because I know there was a little bit of a difference of opinion on.
I've never been. I've never been into the whole Marvel Zombies comics, which I know that's been like an ongoing thing that they've come back to. It was very popular. I do like zombie films though, so I enjoyed that. Essentially, it was a zombie. It was like watching a zombie movie. Only, what if some of the zombies had superpowers? Which you know, and apparently remembered how to use like basic tools like shields and things like that, and use their superpowers. But so I enjoyed all that stuff. I enjoyed that because it was like done through Peter Parker's eyes, that it kept it almost like, you know, it kept it from being super dark.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had that whole, like, you got the video diary style storytelling to get you into it, and then you've got him essentially, you know, even though he's had all this loss, still being a peppy, optimistic guy, you know, and yeah, so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that one for what it was. It was, you know, it didn't really stick with me, but I thought it was fine.
Yeah, no, I also enjoyed it for what it was, but I could see the problems with it as well that people might have, and yeah. Well, as I said, anyone interested, go back and check the last episode. But I was particularly interested to know what you thought about that, Clive, because I know you've got. I wasn't even aware. You see, this is the thing. I didn't even realize there had been Marvel zombie universe comics in existence, so I didn't even know that they'd done that previously. I thought it was just some idea that they came up with, you know, for what if. I didn't realize it had actually been done in the comics. So you know, every day is a learning day with these things. So cool. All right, well, any sort of final thoughts or anything else you want to mention about this particular episode before we move on to the next one?
I will say that just to link it to the next one, that I think that these two make quite a nice pairing in one way, in that although the Killmonger episode obviously focuses on Killmonger as like our through line, you've got in Iron Man in episode 6, and then in Thor in episode 7, you've got essentially you take essentially these you know, spoilt sons who come from an incredibly privileged background, right? And then you take and then you say, what if we took away all the adversity and character building opposition that they've had in their life? So for Tony, you take away the fact that he gets the splinter, he gets captured and put in a cave, and then through that he learns, you know, that, oh, maybe I shouldn't be selling arms, and maybe, you know, and it sort of like basically builds himself into this Iron Man, right?
Yes.
So 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 they take that away, they take that side of him away, right?
Mhm.
And then in the Thor one, they take away Loki. Obviously, he pops up in a different form, but they take away this kind of constant, like, this brother he's grown up with who's constantly testing him,
Yeah.
So and when you take away that, then apparently you get this kind of Thor. So, which is so I guess that's as good a lead up to the synopsis as anything.
I was going to say a good lead up to the synopsis, absolutely. So
we're building this
come
up
on
way
then,
too much.
What have you got for us on this one?
Okay. So, like, what if Odin returned Loki to the ice giants and didn't raise him? And so then Thor grows up all wild. And when he comes to Earth for Thor 1, he just wants to party like it's a 1980s movie. And then it becomes like an intergalactic party. And the partying is spreading all over the Earth. And it's just too much party for everyone to handle. And so then someone goes and tells his mom. And then he has to clean up the Earth like it's a 1980s movie. And then it all ends sort of womp, 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 womp. Except for the part where it ends like kind of all confusing. And that's where I'm hoping, Clive, you can tell us what the end of this episode means. Because I watched it and I was like, I have no idea what this is.
I had to sort of be like, is that what I think it is? And then kind of refer to other sources on the internet to be like, oh, it is what I think it is. Okay, good. I thought I was going mad, because it's not super clear. But yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, again, another episode with a lot of characters, from the MCU. So some of them only having pretty small parts in this, like appearances, but in many cases, they still managed to get the original voice actors in to do it. So we had quite a lot of them here. The notable exceptions was Captain Marvel or Carol Danvers. Wasn't voiced by Brie Larson. Interestingly, we had Alexandra Daniels doing the voice for her, and of course the character Frigga, which is normally voiced by, I'm blanking,
Rene Russo.
Rene Russo. Thank you. Was Josette Eels in this episode. So they brought a couple of the characters, but pretty much everyone else, Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, even, Kat Dennings, even Jeff Goldblum, they're all back and that they're all voicing their characters. Another packed episode. So a different episode. What did we think of this one then?
Well, I'll just start by saying that, the things that I have not liked the most in previous episodes is when they do things that are just sort of, like, I can't follow the reasoning behind, right? Like, or like when they said in the Tony Stark episode, right? This is an immovable point in time. But it's not an immovable point in time because we've already
seen... Doctor Strange one.
What did I say?
Tony Stark.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant the Doctor Strange one. Right? They say it's an immovable point in time, but then it's not.
Yeah.
And like, anyway, so in this one, it's like more and more of these characters started showing up. I was like, well, why would this person be there, right? Like, the sort of simpler ones are like, why would Jeff Goldblum's character be there, right? Are they saying that Thor had like already gone to that garbage dump of the Earth at one point and then come out of it? Because is that how he met, the Taika Waititi Rock character? And then I was really like, why is Nebula there? That makes no sense. That the Nebula character we know takes a vacation to party like it's 1989 on this little backwards planet. So I was, that really took me out of it.
Yeah. Clive?
I mean, it's very silly, isn't it? And and you do. You do get those things in the comics where it's kind of they just take an intentionally like silly premise and then just go with that to do to basically do like this is going to be a comedy one. You know, it's not going to be like a super dark. What if this horrible thing? What if this thing happened and it resulted in like the apocalypse? So it's not one of those stories. Instead, it's like it's like a silly one. I do think they just push it and push it and push it in this episode with like just constantly like just they take it out of like the normal reality and they put it in this kind of as Pete said, this like 1980s like teen movie like sort of teen comedy kind of realm. So this idea that Thor has to go and study.
Yeah.
He's a grown man. I don't understand. They just do that to make it more like it's like he's a frat boy, right? He's just on spring break. So there's this weird things like that, and then obviously, I mean, I didn't mind that obviously the characterization of Thor would change because he's not grown up with Loki. So the fact that this is more like the Thor Ragnarok version of Thor, and less like the Thor version of Thor that's fine. But it seemed weird that Jane Foster was suddenly all giggly and girly around Thor. I know there was a bit of that in the first film where she was clearly attracted to him, but they seemed to really like push that into kind of like tee sort of levels of kind of like oh my, look at this like buff guy, and also just apparently not growing up with apparently not having Loki in his life means that Thor grows up to be a massively stupid person, just like not a single brain cell in his head. Like
he becomes the god of
I
chunder.
yeah, it's very good. So it's I enjoyed it, and but yeah, I know what you mean, Pete. It did seem like a lot of the like myriad MCU appearances of like where it's like his party buddies that he's obviously amassed. Like you're like, why are they here? I mean, I can sort of
Drax there.
Yeah, why is it? Just seems like because apparently he's been partying around the galaxy and he sort of picks up these hangers on. So that seems a bit strange, but yeah, I mean, I tell you what I did enjoy particularly was I thought there were some nice movie Easter eggs, like references. Like did you get the Superman 3 reference there, Keith?
With the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
The Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yes, I did.
Where he straightens, when Thor's doing his tidying up, he straightens the Leaning Tower of Pisa, thinking that he must have messed it up, which was a nice Superman 3 bit. And also, I can't help think this was deliberate. When Darcy marries Howard the Duck in Vegas, the Elvis impersonator looks a lot like Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
And of course, Kurt Russell played Elvis in the TV movie directed by John Carpenter. So I thought that was a bit of like a deep cut nod to another, actor who's appeared in the MCU as Ego, But yeah, so yeah, there's lots of fun stuff in this right up until the sort of super happy ending before then this big massive sequel hook bit at the end. Which do you want to get into that now, or do we want to do other thoughts first?
We'll come on to that. I just want to. I mean, again, I'm agreeing with both of you. Really, I sat there thinking, oh my god, this is not my bag at all. This is really silly. But then I thought, it's funny. I thought this is, if you try and read too much into this, it is ridiculous on so many levels and sort of doesn't make sense or tie in. But I mean, I think that's the whole point with this one. It was supposed to be throwaway. It's just a bit of fun. It's just a fun what if. And yeah, it was really silly, but it was entertaining. I picked up on a lot of the the movie references. Let's be honest as well. Chris Hemsworth seems to enjoy playing Thor. He loves doing comedy, doesn't he? You can just tell, because they've really leaned into that side of Thor with the latter movies in the MCU compared to, the first two Thor movies, where, the character was taken a lot more seriously by the filmmakers.
Yeah.
But I get the impression that Hemsworth was having an absolute blast doing this and just enjoyed playing this side of him. A Thor that, without his brother's influence, seems to shave. There you go. But it was a lot of fun for what it was. Really silly, really disposable, really throwaway, until we get to the ending, which we will come to. Obviously the Howard the Duck, voiced by Seth Green in this, and Darcy thing, absolutely ridiculous. But
yeah. Want to know
also,
what our previous co-host Ryan would think of that, right? Because he was a huge Darcy fan.
Yeah, I'm sure he's quite upset. I'm sure there's some Howard the Duck envy. I mean, even that, to me, Clive says about references to things outside of the MCU, the other movie references. And of course, that, I'm sure, is some sort of nod to the Howard the Duck movie, because obviously, Howard the Duck, in that film.
I don't understand how Howard the Duck has escaped the collector's clutches just to be there. But, that's another one of those things. We're just supposed to not think of that too much about that.
Yeah. Like, why is Mantis there? Yeah.
I think you're right. The other thing I felt, and I don't know whether this is just if you believe everything that you read on the internet, sort of putting something there that maybe isn't. But I felt like there was a few meta kind of jabs at the Captain Marvel character about her not smiling much and not being a lot of fun. And I don't know whether that was what came out of, apparently, if you believe everything that's read, but there was some tension between Brie Larson and Chris Hemsworth on some of the films, in so much as, or certainly in some of the interviews, where there appeared to be a bit of tension between them. Again, I don't know whether this is the sort of thing you see because somebody's put it there rather than it actually being the case, but it did make me wonder if some of the lines in that were a little bit sort of meta, where he was saying to her, "You've got to lighten up a bit and be more fun," and all of this sort of thing.
I personally didn't read it like that, Keith. I read it more like that's like a sexist thing that women get said to them all the time. Is oh, you should smile more. It's just this bull. It's kind of like a crass male thing to say. So that's how I read it, because he's a crass kind of himbo character as characterized in this. So what I thought was more,
which again, if you like, cements your point about you weren't too sure why Jane was so sort of stumbling over him, because you're right, he comes across just as a bit of a a douche, doesn't he, through most of it.
Yeah, what I did think was interesting was I thought they were setting up for all the time I was thinking this version of Thor wouldn't be worthy to wield the hammer.
Yes.
Right. And then I thought they were setting up for a bit where Captain Marvel picks up the hammer.
I thought the same.
But then there's this bit where he dunks it on her chest to kind of like keep her pinned while they have a chat. And I thought, well, she can pick it up now. And then they didn't do anything with that. So I was like, okay. I guess either she didn't think about it, or it's sort of a bit ambiguous what they're saying there.
No, agreed. Yeah. What did you think about the sort of Tom Hiddleston Loki frost giant thing, as opposed to being raised by Odin? How do you think that all played into it? Did it work, or was it again ridiculously silly?
That was one of the least silly things I thought was in there.
Right.
It made sense to me. And I think it is fun to see Loki as a frost giant, because you often forget that that's his true form. Yeah. So I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I'd agree that. I'd also it also made me think of, in the Loki TV series, where we see various variants pop up. There was a frost, like a massively like built frost giant variant of him, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Which it makes you wonder now whether that's to link to this, which I'm sure it probably was. Yeah. Great. Great that Jeff Goldblum, the Grandmaster, popped up there a few times. Again, very silly, but did make me chuckle. I'm not going to lie. So, all right. Any other thoughts on this? Let's talk about the ending then. Let's go with the ending.
Yeah.
Who wants to start? I think Clive.
Well, I have no idea what those things were.
Okay, so for to make sense of this, because it was quite brief, and you have to kind of go back to Avengers Age of Ultron and how all that played out. Yeah. So what we see at the end is Ultron appearing, only it's a version of Ultron we've not seen before. In Age of Ultron, there was this whole bit about Ultron was trying to basically get hold of the Vision body, that would be the shell that would become Vision. And in this in this reality, clearly he succeeds, because obviously Thor's not part of the Avengers. So what we see is the sort of Ultron in the Vision body. Only this one, he's seemingly collected all the Infinity Stones, because they're all dotted around his thing. So it's this. I feel like this is a sequel hook. I feel that this is a setup for that they're going to come back to, because an Ultron who is who has all the Infinity Stones, is clearly, that might be something which the Watcher would have to intervene to stop him breaking all of the multiverse. One would think that might be the case. Yeah. And all the way through What If, a lot of the way that they've ended the episodes has been sometimes it's just been that case of like episode 6, it ends with like Pepper and Shuri teaming up, and there's this sort of like now they've got together, they'll be able to take down Killmonger. This little bit of hope at the end that good will prevail, right? But with some of the other ones, it's kind of like, well, what will happen now? So the question is, I think they're clearly setting this up for this big end of series episode, or episodes where because we've already. I thought what was most interesting about the Doctor Strange one was that the Watcher did intervene in that, right? He brought this alternative version Doctor Strange in to stop emo Doctor Strange. Yeah. So, so maybe this is all a setup for like this kind of like Uber Ultron versus, Captain Carter, emo Doctor Strange. And then and perhaps other alternative versions of characters we've seen in these other episodes.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because we had a bit of a discussion about that in the last episode, where I posed the question about whether or not some of these cliffhanger endings, if you like, are gonna have sequels and going to lead to other things. And we were talking about the fact that by their very definition, and certainly as they were in the comics, the what ifs were supposed to be one shots. They were supposed to be episodic contained episodes without any sort of serial format there. But we did sort of question, well, maybe they've decided for this that they are going to start sort of linking episodes and bringing bits from other what if episodes in, and having some sort of tie up crossover event. So it's interesting that you think they might be setting up for that as well, because it certainly appears to be the case with quite a number of these episodes that they don't just sort of, it's not like how did I hear it described the other day? It's kind of like it's not like a Tales from the Crypt where it's just that's your story and it's an anthology and they don't link. It has got a bit more of a if you like a connection to other episodes, possibly in the back half that we've got to come. Interesting.
Yeah.
Pete, any thoughts from you on this? Oh, still there, Pete?
I'm still here. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
My phone blipped, and
great.
I tried to get rid of it, but I think I messed something up.
It's Ultron. Ultron is
Ultron.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by the Ultron thing because of the timeline. Doesn't quite work, right? If this is supposed to be in sort of the first Thor movie, which was timeline-wise directly after Iron Man, but before everything else, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, this is true. So the question, I guess, in this timeline, the Avengers never formed because Loki never invaded, right? No, Loki never came through with the Chitauri and all of that. So Tony obviously went in to create to his Ultron projects just on his own in this timeline. It's a bit thin, but because it does come out of absolutely nowhere, which is why it really confused me at the end. I was like, what? And then, but I think it's more of like a wah, wah, wah is how they play it in the episodes, kind of like, just when you thought it was all sweetness and light, actually. So this ultra goofy, silly episode could end up being like this really important quote episode, going forward. It seems mad, but there we go.
Maybe. Okay. Well, anything either of you want to add to anything regarding this series in general, or the MCU, or have you seen the latest film?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, me neither.
You haven't seen it? Oh.
No, I'm a film behind at the moment.
Okay.
Which I don't know if any of this has any relevance to
nope.
at all. But
nope. I highly recommend Shang-Chi. But watch it when you can. It's fun. Or I had fun. I had more fun at Shang-Chi than I did at Black Widow. So.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Kind of.
I mean, I will say, as like a final thought, that I do think it's interesting that all of the what's if stories so far, except for maybe one, have stuck to the early phases of the MCU in terms of their what ifs, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing post blip.
Right.
There was one where we see a different version of Thanos,
mm-hmm.
but otherwise it's all been going back to super early days of to the point where we see the Incredible Hulk gets brought back into it, which, lest we forget, is an MCU movie, but it's just but it almost seems slightly out of canon now because of the casting and so forth. But yeah, I do find that interesting, and then so it's almost seems like it's more an exercise in tying back like later strands into that phase 1 than it is in kind of like, yeah. So I wonder if going forward we'll see more kind of like more recent ones, if you see what I mean, in terms of the timelines. But yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen, doesn't it? I'm not sure. Not sure what their plans are, but it does seem to be.
Zombies
like
was
that.
post blip. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I mean, some of these shows have been in the works.
Oh no,
for
it wasn't.
4
Sorry.
years anyway, because of the nature of how they're made. So yeah.
Well, it had. I mean, it had Spidey in it, didn't it? But it wasn't. Was it?
I thought it was post blip because it was because it had the original Wasp in it. The original Wasp is the start of the zombies.
Right.
But she comes back pre-blip.
Okay, so it's not post blip, but yeah, that is one of the ones. But that is a more recent kind of like divergence point, isn't it? Than a lot of the other ones have been. So okay,
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, if you're watching this, we'd be interested to know what you think. If you've got any thoughts of this, please put that down in the comments below, and we will indeed respond to any of that. Okay, so guys, where can people find more of your work and things that you've been working on? So Clive, start with you.
People go to Vimeo and put my name in, then they'll be able to find my most recent short films. Otherwise, hey, check out the Home Media Minefield channel for other great live streams and podcasts that I've appeared in. There
we go. Absolutely. And we'll put links in the show notes below to your Vimeo channel. So thanks for that, Clive. Pete.
Come check out the Let's See What's Out There podcast network. We've got lots of fun shows. We talk about lots of fun things. And catch up now, because coming up, there's lots of more Star Trek shows coming out. And we're going to have to do a lot of Star Trek podcasting.
Oh, there you go. Wow, can hardly wait. Absolutely. Obviously, if you're here, you've already found the channel. Please check out some of the other work on there. We do, as well as these live streams, podcasts, etc. We also do unboxings of physical media, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, that sort of thing, along with reviews and comparisons. Coming up this week as a lead up to the new Bond film, No Time to Die, we are doing a series looking at the Blu-ray and 4K releases of the Daniel Craig era of Bond films. So please check those out. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon so that you get that information. If you want to see any of my other work, my short films, then there is another YouTube channel called British Isles, which is EYLES, which has some other work that I've produced and directed there. So please check out that also. But that just leaves me to say thank you for your time today. Thank you to Pete and Clive for joining me on this journey and for adding some much needed context to it. And we appreciate it. And we'll see you at the next Let's See What's Out There. Bye for now.